Hello, everybody. Once again, I am Lehman Crafton Jr., aka Zorval Chan Less Than Guru. And today I kind of decided that maybe bi weekly, so every 2 weeks, I would do a video discussing my current games. I have been adding those in every now and again, but I thought kind of like I've been now doing Torg Tuesdays, and hopefully every other week will add to my Palladium Ninter Veil playthrough that I would kind of just talk about games that I'm doing. I think maybe you might find it interesting, both as a game master and as a player, and different types of games, and maybe why I think certain things work in different games. But like I've said before, I'm not all old school and I'm not all new school. I see different games as being that way for various reasons. And if you kind of dive in to that game for that reason, you can have a lot of fun. I know a lot of people don't have a lot of fun when they play old school. They think that you die too fast, or they want all combat to be a sport and not battle. And then on the other side, you have people that don't like um, the the for lack of a better word, the lower challenge, I guess, where the party is expected to, if they're smart, win every single combat. So I figured I would maybe just do this every other week because that's kind of how my games go. I have a game mastering Blood on the Blasted Land through Organized Play on Roll Hit Die, and that is every week until that adventure ends. But my other ones are kind of every other week. So I figured that I can do this as kind of a recap on things, and if people are interested, then maybe you'll learn something or uh, find out different reasons why I think I do things, what I think about game styles and stuff like that. And then again, when I do reviews, you can understand if that might be something that you like and you might want to play, or give you ideas if you are already playing it and you haven't thought of it, and things like that. So basically, I'm in four games. Like I said, I game master every Wednesday Blood on the Blasted Lands, which is streamed live on Twitch, Roll Hit Die, and then the episodes are put onto YouTube afterwards. And then every other week on Friday, I do as a player Earthdawn now. We just had our first Earthdawn, was really fun. And then on one Sunday, I will game master the Palladium Ninter Veil, which I post here. And on the opposite Sunday, I am currently in an adventure path with Pathfinder. So I figure I'd go through those four games and do this as a bi-weekly thing, hopefully. So I'll go ahead and get started. So hopefully you'll understand what I'm doing. Maybe it'll give you ideas. And I think whenever people talk about games that they do, it's fun for both the person who has experienced it, plus for those who are listening can get ideas and stuff like that. So the first thing was last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, not yesterday, but was our Pathfinder game. And in Pathfinder, we are playing a Strange Aeons and Adventure Path. And as I stated before, I do not like the Pathfinder system. I think it is very restrictive. And I know it is complete opposite of what other people think. They think that you have all these feats and all these choices and all these things that how you can build your character, all these character classes and stuff like that, and that gives choice. But to me, it's each one of those choices makes it so that you can't do that thing with something else. And that's why I don't think that it gives as much choices. Again, it's my opinion, but I do like the adventure paths, and we're going through Strange Eons. I think we're in the second book. I have no idea what it's called. The game master was just like, you've moved on to the second book. And my character in that is a shifter. And when I made that shifter, or actually the game master made it, and that was one thing that made me want, as I've stated in previous videos, that's one thing that made me want to play the game. I had played previously and I enjoyed the adventure path, but I did not like the system. And when it was like, oh, we're going to do another adventure path with Pathfinder, I was going to say, sorry, but I just would rather not play. And then the game master was like, I'm making everybody's character. You're all starting with amnesia. And I thought this would be interesting because you wouldn't have those people who totally know the system and will make characters way better than others, because Pathfinder is also something that I think has, and I've seen other videos talking about it for second edition, but I apply it to first edition, an illusion of choice. Not all choices are viable. You will have 50 choices, and 2 of them are the best choices, and they are the best choices. And those other ones you might want for flavor, but you will end up hurting your character or the party, whether that's utility wise or in combat. And let's face it, combat is important. If there's any game that has any type of combat that is not just a crazy one fluke, you run away, or something like Cthulhu, where you go into the game knowing that combat is going to kill you. And I have a whole different philosophy in those type of games, which is if I hit it with a billy club and it doesn't stay down, I run away, because all the people with guns think that they're invincible and will shoot and shoot and they will die. And that's that type of game. So I can play those type of games. But if it's something like high fantasy, I'm going to pause because I don't want to start this over and I'm getting a lot of messages. So I'm going to check out what those are. So I will be back. Okay, sorry about that. I was getting messages from my players from the last night game that I was trying to respond to. So, the Pathfinder we're doing currently is the second book within the Strange Aeons Pathfinder Adventure Path, and the Game Master made up the characters. I believe I mentioned this before, and that kind of interested me. I was a shifter, which is basically, a lot of people consider it a horrible class, saying that a druid who just would not use magic would be a better shifter doing the shifter thing than the actual shifter is. But I actually like and enjoy playing the shifter. I can just focus on that. I don't have to worry about casting spells. And I've been enjoying my my playthrough for this system this time. The last time I played a gunslinger, which I liked the concept, but it's one of those things where then you start noticing these very specific things that, because they're allowed to do it, means no one else is allowed to do it. And one of those is, like, you shoot a gun and it heats up the barrel, and then you use the barrel to cauterize a wound. And by having that be a specific gunslinger thing, if you're not a gunslinger, you would never be able to do that obvious method, or even if it's not realistically in the real world effective in cinematic type role playing, it is, but you basically denied everybody else from doing that because this person can't. So that's kind of my mini rant on Pathfinder, and one of the things where I don't like it, and I think that it really restricts all these choices, actually restrict your real choices. Like, in you're playing a simple system like basic expert D&D, BX D&D, or BECME D&D, and you had a similar situation, you could just tell the game master, I stick my sword in a hot fire and I cauterize the wound, and then the game master can determine whether or not that succeeds. And it can be anyone. It's not just a warrior, it's not just a thief, it's not just this or that. But I am enjoying the Pathfinder Strange Aeons path. We got to a point, we're in this manor called Iris Hill, and the last fight was really hard. We were fighting and I'm probably going to pronounce it, I know I'm going to pronounce it wrong, a Penhagelin. They're basically a Eastern mythological vampire, which has a neck that detaches from the body, and it has the entrails coming out, and it flies, and it threw up a stinking cloud that really messed up a lot of us. And my character being a shifter, I can shift into a tiger, and it's a large dire tiger, and we're in a manor, so I'm having to watch out because sometimes the space is too confined. But that's an interesting thing. Do I transform? Do I not? If I transform, how long do I stay there? Because I have a limited amount of uses of that. So that's one of the things that I do enjoy. And another thing that I'm happy that the Game Master is doing is he's not allowing quick exchanges. So I know that sometimes out there, if there's spell components and the players have money, they just spend the money instead of expending the spell components. Or if you get, say, 500 gold of jewelry and clothes and fine draperies or whatever, some game masters just say, just write down the 500. this game master is not doing that, and I like that because then you have to go, you have to sell, you don't just get instant money. You have to carry this stuff, and carrying that stuff is an important part of that role playing. How do you get it out? And that's why a lot of spells and different things were made in old D&D that then had transferred on in various systems. So I am liking that thinking aspect of it. So that was our Pathfinder. Really enjoyed that fight. A lot of us were getting choked on that stinking cloud. And various other things were happening that made that fight very intense, and I like that. There's been a couple of times where in this Pathfinder, the game master hasn't kept things behind the doors, and when we start fighting, those doors will open and creatures will come out and rush us, like the party would do if they were in the same type of situation. So that's been a fun experience in keeping us on our toes and uh, having more of that combat as battle rather than combat as sport. So that's the first thing. And then we did Blood on the Blasted Lands, which is interesting. We're going through acts. We've gone through 3, and they've started the 4th act last time, and that's going pretty well. It is interesting because that is a game group that I have not been playing with for years. Other game groups I've been playing with for years, or if there's a new person, it's just one new person and they kind of adapt to the group and we adapt to them. But otherwise, all my groups are, I want to say, besides the one guy, everybody else at the minimum I've been playing for over 3 years with. And most of them I've been playing decades, 25 or more years with. So the Blood on the Blasted Land is interesting because I usually have my own house rules for Torg, and we're doing Torganized Play, so I'm trying to use those rules. So old Torg, Torg Eternity, my house rules, and Torganized Play rules are all kind of getting jumbled up. And if you watch those, you might see me hesitate or try to figure out things or make a quick ruling or even a slow, long ruling, depending. And that is because I'm having conflicts in my head. And luckily, I have players that know what they're doing, and they're not the players who know what they're doing and hide vital information from the game master. There are players that know what they're doing and will help me out and stuff like that. But one of them being Michael Roderick, he is one of the main admins over to Organized Play, so he understands it. He does a lot of game mastering, so he understands that type of help. So that's fun. I will say, if you watched it, you'll see he specifically said, "Are you going to use any game master possibilities?" And I said, "Nope." And it was very, very fast, and it was because I had already been thinking about what I'm going to do in this act, and hopefully in the next game you will see that start happening. It's something that I'm going to bring out. So it was for a reason. It wasn't just me shutting him down. There is a specific reason for this. So that was fun. And it is fun to play with a complete stranger group, a game that I helped write. So even if it's not my act that we're in, we all read each other's act and gave what I want to say. We gave hints and suggestions and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun doing that. And again, I've been to a lot of these places in the game, so I'm able to add certain things, and that's always fun for me. So that was Blood on the Blasted Lands for, I guess it'd be the last two times, because that's the one game I do every week. And then on Friday we had our first Earthdawn. So I've been talking about Earthdawn, 4th edition, and I really like it. My last video was me talking about my history of Earthdawn. So we played Earthdawn 4th edition. We finally got all the group hammered together. So I'm the Windling Weaponsmith, and even though I'm playing the exact same race and discipline that I played in the last time I played Earthdawn 2nd edition, my Windling Weaponsmith is completely different personality. My old one was kind of a swashbuckler. Even though he's a weaponsmith, he would make a rapier and short sword type weapon. It was just considered Windling sword, but in game description, that's what we called it. And he was very swashbuckler and had the tri-horn hat and all that. And that was his type of personality. He was a pretender fake pirate. I wanted to make a Windling Sky Raider, and basically just went or air sailor, and then went with weaponsmith. But I kept that type of mentality. Now with this one, okay, I'm the windling weaponsmith. We also have another windling, a cavalryman who has a zoke, sorry, a flying bat like bat reptile-ish type thing, which he was going to go with the kui, which is kind of a reptile cat mount, and that's a cool mount. But I was like, I actually suggested when we were talking about it, him take the Zote, because then he could fly, and as a windling, he's flying. And when I played a windling cavalryman, I had a Jaguar, which was very close to the Kui in stats. And the thing that one of the things that kind of I realized that I designed that character wrong is because I basically flew. If I flew, I didn't have like my other half, because that didn't. So we'll see how that goes. So that's the second character. We have a elf beastmaster with a wolf companion. We have an elf elementalist, a dwarf elementalist, and they are playing two different types of elementalists. One is kind of going healing, and the other is going survival and combat with the earth darts. And then we have a troll warrior and a elf archer. So we have three elves, and sadly our orc swordsmaster was not able to show up, so we have not found him. We know about him, but we haven't found him. And the game was fun. We were captured by slavers, a village that we happened to be in or were from. Basically, that's kind of up to us. Was attacked and destroyed, and we put up a valiant fight, but were defeated and taken on board. And then while we were on board in the hole, we heard fighting and stuff going on and cannons blasting and things, and then the ship crashed or was falling and then crashed. And during this time we made our escape, and we came out and we had to find our weapons, that type of trope. We had to find our weapons and armor and equipment and etc. But we were working together quite well. I really enjoyed it. As a weaponsmith, one of the skills I got was like pick locks or open locks. I can't remember what it's specifically called in Earthdawn, but I did that, and when I couldn't, then the troll beat down the door. But they let me try to do that, and then we made some improvised daggers, and our elf elementalist, she cast the flame weapon, but we used it kind of as torches, because not all of us could see in the dark. And we went through things. We found the animal companions, and then we went into a room that there was a silverback gorilla. And although we as people, as players, know about silverback gorillas, not our characters didn't necessarily know about it. And my windling in this is very defensive orientated, and I'm going with helping like the wizards and the non men at arms type classes, and that would include or not included in men at arms. I would consider the archer, because they're stay back. So basically, I want to put myself to defend the people that should be in back, and hopefully let the four melee people get into melee. But we were going down a hallway that was kind of small, and even with me being windling, somebody might be able to get in that same area as me, but people couldn't go through it. And we opened up a door, and there was this gorilla, and this gorilla just stands there. So I was like, hey, let's go back. We had destroyed the lock, so we couldn't just close the door any longer. So that was funny. We kind of like set up ourselves to fail, I guess. And the gorilla comes and attacks us, and then later on we learn that the gorilla was being controlled, and then that person who controlled the gorilla made our troll go crazy, and the troll attacked the Beastmaster and flattened the Beastmaster like they were nothing. And since people couldn't really get past me, and the gorilla's right up against me, I'm holding it off and making really good rolls. It's making bad rolls. It did once knock me down. I jumped up, and then the other windling came flying, and so we were able to, fly in that same area, and were able to defeat the gorilla. while the troll is busting through walls. It's just awesome, busting through walls, coming out and killed the thing that was controlling the gorilla. It hurt some of us. Some people uh, didn't get hurt. There were some times when the ship rocked back and forth or crashed that certain people got hurt and stuff. So we're at that point where we basically cleared out this ship, and now we got to figure out where we are. Well, we kind of looked and we're landed on a mountain, and we looked down and there's some ruins, which out of character I probably would think would be a care, but maybe not. I don't know, but we'll find out next time. But that was a really fun game. We did a lot of role playing. We did a lot of getting our characters to know each other and doing things. It also was very nice and a very nice relief that when a battle started, not everybody just decided to rush there. Um, in our Pathfinder game, there's a mentality of if there's one here, if there's one thing here, everybody tries to rush it, even if they're not combat, and get in the way, basically. And with my character being a shifter and getting big, to be fully effective in battle, I need a large area. And when people are blocking that area, I can't be effective. And there was a time when I was playing a cleric and I was doing aid another and standing back and let the melee people do the melee thing. So in this one, other people were doing other things. When the Beastmaster got knocked out and the warrior came to his senses, the warrior's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but we're all kind of new to each other." So the elf elementalist didn't quite believe the troll and grabbed the elf Beastmaster and was dragging him away. And other people were trying to get a rope over the ship so that when we got there, we would be able to get over. So it wasn't just everybody trying to hit this one or this gorilla and its controller. So that was actually really enjoyable to have a party that didn't necessarily all try to just dogpile on the one little or the one big. I mean, it was pretty tough gorilla, but that one thing, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. That everybody wasn't trying, because sometimes you get, okay, I don't have no spells, I don't have anything, I have my little dagger, and I'm going to run up there just so that I can try to do something. And I'm like, do aid another. If you have that type of thing, do something else to help somebody else instead of you don't. Helping doesn't necessarily mean doing, and you're probably not going to hit anyway to try to stab. But again, my opinion. Other people have different ways of thinking. So that was Earthdawn, and then last night Palladium. I'm going, and currently in the background, the Palladium video is getting ready to be uploaded, and that hopefully, if you watch that, will be interesting. The party went past an area and nobody fell into these traps. There was a certain place where I had them make D20 rolls, and none of them hit the numbers for those traps. So they went past an area. They kind of looked at it, hesitated, didn't want to get involved. If they would have got involved, it could have been good or bad depending on what they did. It could have been extremely bad, but they passed it by. But that left the thing that was there, the group that was there, sent out some people to track them down and try to deal with them. And it was a very difficult and hard fight. And a couple of party members were knocked unconscious. That might affect things the next game. A lot of people are hurt, and before they were getting hurt, they were going back to town. They were getting hurt, thinking about going back to town, to realize all they would be doing is bouncing back, so they decided to go forward. So they went even further now. So they're kind of in a place where they really can't go back, and they're too hurt to go forward. So what do they do? But a couple of interesting things might happen, and some of the things might seem like game master shenanigans, but it's just there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that only I'm aware, and I can't really say it in chat. There's a lot of secrets in that group, and things like that might affect things or take them one way or another. But it's interesting, and I do have my own rules supplement, and sometimes I forget what's in the rule supplement. Somebody asked me a question about shield being used to parry missiles, and I said no. And then I looked at my rules supplement after the game, and I realized I specifically wrote in the rule supplements that they did, because as I've mentioned before various times, Palladium is vague, and that can be good or it can be bad. It's good because it allows the game master to make that specific thing the way that they want in their game, but it's bad if people just want to be able to open up a book and look at the rule and say that's the rule and certain things. So that's why I've been saying, hey, are you in your hand-to-hand stance? Are you in your bow stance? Are you in your throwing stance? Are you in your magic stance? Because all of those are kind of hinted at, and they don't mesh. So when you try to get them to mesh, it can cause weird things to happen. So that's why I kind of solidified it, and I like Palladium because of that. But it's also not good if you just want to be able to look at the book. But we had fun. There was an encounter. People were doing interesting things, and in that game, I'm not telling people at the end what their experience points are. And I think I might have showed I have a tally sheet that I at the end I go through and okay, they come up with a good idea or they had an insightful thing. They did this, they did that, and I will individually calculate experience for everybody. Now in the battles, there's a minor menace, a major menace, and like a great menace. There's three levels. I always forget what they are, but I will give everybody the full experience if they've attempted to do something in combat. But everything else is an individual thing. So there are people that get different experience points for what they do, and then what I usually do is afterwards, like I'll say, hey, I give you a few extra experience. Or if it's something like role playing, I just give it to them. But if it's something specific that they did that I wasn't expecting, or I thought, hey, this was a good thing, and I'll actually give out an example. If you watch it, there was Bauer's character Decimus when they were looking at this trail this path, paved cobblestone path that had no vegetation on it. He was curious, and everybody else was like, let's not do anything. And he threw some leaves and twigs on it. And leaves and twigs disintegrated and kind of turned to dust and blew off. Well, that showed one thing, but then I decided I didn't want to just leave it at that. So I added a little extra thing of he scared up a rabbit and the rabbit went across it and nothing happened to the rabbit. So then they were like, okay, this either only affects dead things or it only affects plant things, and it doesn't affect either living things or animals, say. But it gave them a little more insight. Now, he didn't have to do that, but he did that, and that was something that gave him some insight. So if they ever go back to that place, they can use that. So I gave him extra experience. And when I sent him a text message after the game, I'm like, I did give you a little bit extra experience because of this, because I want to reward that type of thing, that out of the box thinking, and stuff like that. Or when some group members are like, hey, while we're walking along, we want to look around, and if we happen to see edible plants and foods, we want to do that to supplement our provisions. So I allow that, and things like that. I want to reward a little bit of experience. So the whole party, um, the lowest to the highest is only about a 200 difference, and one of the people didn't play once. And if you don't play, I take whoever got the lowest experience and give it like 90% of that because I don't want them to completely miss out on experience. But I'm doing this as I don't want everybody to have the same amount of experience. So some people might level before others, and in Palladium is like older editions of D&D where there is not the everybody levels at the exact same number of experience. I think somebody can level at around 16 or 1700, and another one takes like 700 more experience to get the second level. So that type of thing happens as well. But we're still kind of easing back into that system. And the way I played it 30 years ago is different than how I'm playing it now. Some rules I just didn't understand as a teenager, or didn't care about, decided not to do, or people didn't pick those spells because we were all like, oh, combat, combat, combat. So you didn't get things like Cloud of Slumber and Cloud of Steam. You got, like Firebolts or things like that. And when you have those spells and you see that, you realize, oh, this is why you have save versus spells and stuff like this going on. And Palladium is not the D&D where the Cloud of Slumber, if you get hit, you wake up. Or if you're invisible and you attack somebody, the invisibility goes away. So you have to really understand that affects things. So it is an interesting learning experience, and people are very slowly figuring out about the other characters, which is interesting because this is a game of big starting secrets. When I open it up to anybody can be everything, when you have people that are good versus people that are evil, versus you say you have a paladin and something like a priest of darkness, that might not get along. Some people are hiding certain things about themselves, and those things have the chance at various times, whether planned or unplanned, of coming out. So that's interesting too. So that is my wrap up. Hopefully, maybe they gave you some ideas on things that you can add to your own games, or just again see how I view things, what I am excited about, and then when I do reviews or talk about things, you can understand if that's something that you might like or might not like. So until next time, I will catch you.